But let's start with Quinn Hutson, a guy who we saw make his debut last night. I think halfway through the game, he'd only played like 5.5 minutes. And granted, they played him more in the third, but we didn't exactly get a great look at him. What's your view on the oldest Hutson brother? Is this a guy who has some NHL upside in his game, and where's his range, I guess, is a good way to start?
So fun fact, there's a fourth Hutson brother, Lars Hutson. I don't know if he's going to be good enough to get drafted. He's an 08 born. I don't know if he'll be good enough drafted in his draft year. We'll see, but that's a hockey factory right there. When it comes to Quinn Hutson, this is someone who's a very late bloomer. You look at his stats and his career trajectory. He played a couple games with the US U18 national team as a 20-year-old, which is pretty rare, obviously, but he did that because the NTDP rules is like, okay, you have to be under 18, but like no one's preventing us from using an older player. When you look at him, you look at the numbers. He was very productive throughout his entire year at college, very good in the power play, and he's also quite physical too. This is someone who is only 5'11", so he's a bit bigger than Quinn and or Lars. The other guys, Lane and Cole, there's too many Hudsons, man. But so he's a little bit bigger than them, but he's got that really energetic nature to him. Like, he feels like a guy that if he's going to break through to the NHL, and I'm not sure he would be good in a bottom six role because he's someone who just wants the puck, and he's had to spend his whole career proving people wrong, just like his two younger brothers have. But he's had to do it. He's 23 years old. He's older at this point. So I saw him up close at the Leafs development camp last year, and I thought with him he can actually do quite a bit around the net, but he's not exceptional in anything. I think he's going to have a bit more of an issue trying to handle that physical element of the pro game in the NHL, but I was really happy to see that he did make that lineup last night.
So is it maybe fair to say that this is a guy who maybe even at the start of next season needs a bit of seasoning in the American League to learn how to penalty kill at the pro level and maybe just learn how to play a bottom six role if his ceiling is just a third, fourth liner?
I think even calling it the ceiling, I think it is still a bit unrealistic to think he's going to be a full-time NHL player. But at this time of year, when you're signing a guy out of college or signing a guy to Europe, you're hoping you can get some games out of that guy. And with Hutson, that's what you're looking here. Like, if he ends up playing 25, 30 games in the NHL next year, that's a win, 100%, because this is someone who never looked like he was going to be an NHL caliber player. So the fact that he could be on the radar, he realistically should be on the radar next year. Like, this is not a good pipeline for the Oilers. Going out and getting him without having to use any development assets, you didn't have to have him sit in Bakersfield for 3 years before you had to decide whether or not to do with him. I think that is it's good scouting by the Oilers department there.
What do you make of Atro Leppänen? I saw you put out a tweet saying how strong of a signing this would be. Like, do you think he has a chance to be a consistent NHL player for the Oilers? Like, what are we looking at here?
We'll see. Like, this was not a good year to sign guys out of Europe. But with him, this is someone who has generated some NHL attention in the last couple of years, and that's because he's so skilled with the puck. Like, of any player in Europe you could have signed this year, this was the one I would be targeting, and that's because he's got that ability to play a high-end offensive game. Like, he puts up over 50 points in the Finnish league. That's hard for a forward to do, let alone a defenseman. It's over 60 points. Forgot about that. He is a bit of a defensive liability, though, and that's where I think he could fall short in the NHL, where he'll try to do these creative plays, but he's not overly big, and he does give the puck away a lot. So on one hand, giving away the puck a lot means you also have the puck a lot yourself, but at the same time, there's been too many unforced errors, which kind of give me pause. But again, if you're going to sign anyone out of Europe, this is the guy to do it, because that high-end skill is a lot better than what you usually find out of somewhere like the Finnish Liga.
So, again, maybe a situation where this is a guy who they're not signing him being like, he's our number 6 next year. It's a guy who's a bit of organizational depth, I suppose, with upside.
Like for him, it's like, okay, I get a chance to prove what I could do in the NHL. And we've seen a lot of guys like that in the last couple of years where they'll come over and it's like, all right, I'll give myself 1 year to see if I could do it. If not, I'm going to go make a lot of money back home and play a bigger role. With him, that's what I'm looking at here. Like, he's probably not in your opening night lineup, but he's someone who should play games in the NHL next year. And if you're hoping that maybe, like, he's really good on the power play. Like, I don't see a role where he could kind of fit in the Oilers on the power play, but I would love that to somehow happen, because I think he's actually about as smart as it gets. utilizing that open ice to make things happen. It is a bit of a different situation going from that big European ice to going to the NHL, but it still feels like someone who I think he knew he was going to sign an NHL contract pretty early, and I could see if you watch clips from him in like October compared to like March, and seeing how he just starts to use the middle of the ice a bit more because he doesn't have that extra space towards the boards to use. I think that he really adapted well. So I do like this signing a lot, but yeah, I do. He should be in Bakersfield to start the year, and I do think he'll play some NHL games, but he's not going to be an everyday NHLer, I don't think.
One guy that they signed, and maybe he is the one guy who I'm looking at going NHL guy from the jump next year, would be David Tomasek. Again, put up some really, really good numbers. Am I correct in thinking that he could be the one of the group that's like, he's going to play NHL games from the jump next year?
Yeah, 100%. And that's some really good numbers there in the Swedish league. That's not an easy league to produce. Like when you look at that and you see point per game in most European leagues, that's tough to do because scoring is just not as high as it is there. Like that's why you look in the KHL and there'll be like 30 goalies with a save percentage of like 930 and above. Like that's just how European leagues really kind of operate. And the Swedish league is no different. I really liked watching him last year at the World Championship. This was someone who was playing top line for that Czech team for a little bit, and then David Pastrnak showed up. He got pushed down a little bit, but he's really good at face-offs. Like that's one thing he wins a lot. I wonder if he plays wing in the NHL or if it's something where he gets more of those defensive roles. He can play on the penalty kill. And I think he's also capable of playing with some really high-end talent. So I think you're looking at a guy who maybe at best he's probably fitting in on your third line, but he can step up higher in the lineup. But again, as I will always point out, when it comes to these European signings, you're talking about 25, 26, 27-year-old guys who are starting to peak at that age. Might not have been on anyone's radar. Tomasek has been on radars for a while. Like he's not an unknown quantity, but we'll see kind of what he could do. But I do think he should be a full-time NHL player next year.
Josh Samaneski, close enough. He seems like someone who does have a bit of promise too. Like only 23 years old,
He's
6'5",
He's huge.
Played on World Junior teams. Like, is it fair to say that he's, I guess, got the highest ceiling out of this group of players, or do you think that even that's a bit of a stretch?
I like Tomasek more, and I feel like he's just always been someone who has been on radars. When it comes to Szymanski, I remember watching him play at the Brantford 99ers back in the OJHL years ago, and was not someone who really stood out because he was, even at the German like U16 level, he was never that productive. It was someone who always seemed to play like he was good in role situations. So going out there and putting up the numbers he's put in this year, the German league has shown that, yeah, he can actually be quite productive. He's physical. He's defensively smart. I think you can look at him and say, maybe you can throw him in front of the net. I don't know if his skating is fully at the level that you kind of want at the NHL level, but I think that what we've seen from him is just a long-term project guy that has started to figure it out, and that's another signing I like. But Tomasek feels closer to being an impact player right away than Szymanski.
What's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.